Welcome back to PCOS Unfiltered. Nourish, heal, thrive. The podcast where we cut through the noise and get real about healing from the inside out. I'm your host, Lindsay, and today's episode is the first of a two-parter that is a powerful one. And we are diving into the mind-body connection in a way you may have never heard before. My guest is Matt Travis, a mind and body transformation specialist, hypnotherapist, and expert in rapid transformation therapy. Matt helps people break free from the subconscious patterns and emotional blocks that keep them stuck so they can heal, grow, and live in alignment with who they really are. We're talking all things subconscious healing, the role our beliefs play in physical health, and just getting started on how German new medicine brings a fascinating lens to conditions like PCOS. Whether you've struggled with symptoms that won't budge, or you're just tired of feeling like your body's working against you, this episode will help you see things differently. So let's jump in. Okay, so welcome, Matt. Let's start with you. So can you tell listeners who you are, a little bit more about who you are, and how you got into hypnotherapy, and what just first sparked your interest in the subconscious mind and its role in healing?
Yeah, so I'm Matt Travis, and I am so excited to be here, Lindsay, because a lot of people, maybe in your listeners, like have tried all of the traditional routes, right? That's like why I kind of got into this is to figure out what body transformation and health transformation really consists of. So when I started back I got out of college, physical education, health degree, and started, teaching and then coaching football. And then I got into fitness and strength and conditioning, certifications, all that stuff. And then I opened my gym and I realized, like, I basically asked myself this question: how come some people get results and can't keep them? How come some people try everything and they never get results? And then how come it's so effortless for some people? They get results and keep them no problem. What is that all about? And so that led me on like a 10-year journey from 2010 to 2020 to really understand human psychology and why we do what we do, why we get results, what this is really all about. So if you're listening right now and you've been kind of like stuck or you haven't found the thing that's working for you, I hope this conversation supports you and helps you, if nothing else, feel like you're not alone.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, we could go down a rabbit hole with how our stories align,
Sure.
but that's definitely something I saw in the gym too, and you really helped open my eyes to all of that. So, for people who aren't familiar, how would you explain the role of the subconscious in our everyday health and behavior?
Yeah. So I like to keep it really simple. Imagine if you just had like a courtroom stenographer walking around with you your entire life and just was taking notes on everything, all of the time, every single day. And imagine it was really, really, really taking notes very, very, very well from the ages of 0 to 7 years old. Okay. Because that's when you just are like a sponge. You're in hypnosis basically that during that time frame, and you're just picking up everything. Like I always like people to understand, like, your parents have such an impact on you, probably more than anybody else, or your caregivers, whoever was bringing you up. But your parents, your caregivers, your teachers, your coaches, from like, we could even go 0 to 10 if you really wanted to, but like that time frame is so impactful on really solidifying what's like a lot of your stories and the way that you interact with the world. And when I was questioning this, when I was asking myself that question, how come some people get results? They go to a gym or they do a diet, they lose, 100 pounds, and then they gain it all back. What the hell is that about? And it's simply because you have a program that runs, that your subconscious has taken notes on and is like decided that this is what is safe, familiar, predictable, and certain. That's what it is. And so, and it's great that we have this. So a lot of people get really angry about this, but it's so important. Like if we wouldn't actually be here talking on this podcast right now if that didn't exist, because we would have never survived this long. Like we need the subconscious because, like when we were back, hundreds, thousands years ago, we're on the plains of Africa and we're like trying to take these snapshots. So the subconscious is taking snapshots all the time, right? It's like snapshot, that's where the other tribe is, and it might attack at any time. So we got to remember where that is. Snapshot, there's the bear den. I got to make sure we don't go near that so we don't get eaten, right? Snapshot, at nighttime, lions and tigers and things come out, and we need to make sure that we have a person that stands guard so we don't all die, right? There's all of this that happens, and it's so important that we have that because it's what keeps us it's what's kept us actually alive and safe most of our lives. And we even have it where we were tribal people for so long. And if you were rejected from the tribe, that meant death. And so a lot of us massively, massively fear rejection. So, like, for example, when we go out and we eat with our friends, we go out, you go out for a girls' night, you're eating with your friends, you don't want to be the odd one out, not eating the things. And so, what do? We turn into our pleaser self and we start to like dive in, and then we regret that horribly the next day because we're like, we feel horrible. So, there's just so much more around this. Like, the subconscious it's everything. It's everything, folks. It's what designs your identity, your beliefs, your patterns, your habits, your standards, your stories, all values, everything.
Mm-hmm. So you're talking about how everything is processed. So how do unprocessed emotions or subconscious beliefs influence our health, physical health, mental health?
Yeah, yeah. And I like people to picture it like this. Imagine that we all are walking around with a filing cabinet in our head. Okay. So everybody have that picture in their head. They have a filing cabinet in your head. And imagine this filing cabinet, all the doors are open in the filing cabinet and there's files like shoved in. Some of them are crumpled up and put in there. Some of them are hanging out. There's stuff flying out of it. Those are all of the unprocessed thoughts, feelings, events, all of the stuff that we never processed, and we just kind of moved on and we're like, oh, I'm good. You're not. like that's why therapy, regardless, I'm not going to go into the deep, well, we could, but there's many different kinds of therapy. Okay. There's talk therapy. There's so many different kinds. What I found is that when I can use rapid transformation therapy, which is a mix of neuro-linguistic programming, psychotherapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, delivered on a platter of hypnosis and hypnotherapy, it allows me to ultimately help you unpack and put the file back in a way that makes sense. Because think of it this way, you might have an unprocessed file from your childhood. Let's say, one that I always think about because this one stuck with me so much from one of my sessions was people don't, when people think of trauma, they think war or they think physical, sexual, emotional abuse, right? That's what they think of. They think of like very dark things. So I had this one client, she came to me, she was like, I just want to release weight. I just have so much trouble with it and so on and so forth. One of the scenes we went back to was her mother, when when she was a freshman in high school, she put a tank top on and her mother said, you look fat or you can't wear that type of thing. That was very traumatic to her. So trauma doesn't care. It's not like a level system. Like your body is like, and of course we don't categorize it as that either. We just know we didn't feel good when this person we loved said that thing to us. But that took a snapshot. I'm fat, blah, 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 blah. Right. And so it sticks with you forever. So it's these unprocessed thoughts and emotions and feelings that we have around an event. It's not even the event because somebody else that had that same event could be like, shut up, mom. like, like get off my back. And not, it wouldn't even have stuck, but for this woman, it did. So everybody processes different things, but it's the meanings, the feelings and the meanings that we give to these things. And so when we can go through them when we're an adult, we have a little bit more understanding, and we have, like, our brain is fully formed, and we can actually make more logical and emotional shifts easier. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool, cool.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. I love the analogy of the file
It
and
made so much sense. I was like,
yeah,
I feel so good when I think about it, because I'm like, that's why everyone can benefit from therapy, y'all. Like, we need to get rid of the stigma around therapy. I find a lot of people join a gym when they probably should go and talk to a therapist. Like,
yeah,
they join a gym to lose weight when in actuality they have they have a filing cabinet that is kind of messy, and they just need
yeah,
to go through that. But why do we not want to do that? We don't want to touch this, like,
yeah,
we don't want to look at it. But I say we can, with my clients, it's we see it and we be free of it.
yeah. I feel like you kind of touched a little bit, but what are some common limiting beliefs that you've seen in women, and maybe more specifically women with PCOS?
Ooh, great question.
Mhm.
I feel like, well, let's do PCOS first and then we'll just do the broad. But I feel like when people get a diagnosis, right? Diagnosis is like, it does some things that are helpful, and then it can do some things that are not helpful. Okay. So for example, and this is something that was really powerful for me when I was younger. And for those of you that are listening, you'll start to know I go down these rabbit holes. These, call them ADHD side quests. So here we go, folks. So just to understand why diagnoses are um, really, really, really powerful, because we have people telling us what we can and can't do our whole lives, or what will or won't happen to us, right? So my entire childhood, I was told, um, you know, that I had learning disabilities and all this stuff. And then even in college, they were like, my guidance counselor was like, you'd be lucky to get into college with your grades and your SAT scores. And I was like, you can't tell me what I can and cannot do. And then I got into college, same thing happened. They were like, you'd be lucky to get into the major. And I was like, you can't tell me what I can and cannot do. And then even at the end of college, they were like, you'll be lucky to get a job out of college. And I was like, can't tell me what I can and cannot do. And then I was listening to this speaker. This guy had no arms, no legs, and he was in a wheelchair, and he was just a motivational speaker. And I really wish I remembered his name, because it really had such an impact on me at that time. Because after those three events, he said something that stuck with me forever. He said, never accept a diagnosis that doesn't empower you. And so I share this with you folks because many of you that are listening to this have found, Lindsay, because you have been diagnosed with PCOS, okay? And you may feel like, I'm done. I'm cooked. There's no losing weight for me. It's just kind of how it is, right? So you have been given this diagnosis, and you've created a meaning and a rule in your subconscious that there's nothing that we can do, okay? And there's plenty. All right, there's plenty. When I started learning about women and female hormones and all that stuff and gut health and everything, I started to realize there's just a bunch of misinformation out there that leads people to believe. Another example of this is anybody that, when I just say the word menopause, that can cause a woman that's not in menopause to just kind of have a hot flash or a freak out feeling that they're like, oh my God, I never want to go through that, because you hear horror stories. Okay. And a lot of those horror stories are because those individuals just accepted that fate, and they didn't realize that um, sleep, food, and movement can make that so much better. So like so much easier. And the same goes for PCOS. Okay? So there's always hope. Like my LLC is called Save Hope. I started it back when I ran my gym. And it was just this idea that, folks, this can work out for you. And your mind is the most powerful computer ever of all time. Ever, 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 ever. And your mind is creating your actions or inactions. So it's creating everything. So if you have a belief and a story that you can't lose, I like to use the word release, weight, then you won't. Okay? So it's that saying, whether you believe you can or can't, you're right. So for anyone that's listening, like if you've accepted your diagnoses and it doesn't empower you, look at it and say, you know what? There's a reason you stumbled across Lindsay. Like there's a reason you're here. There's a reason you're listening. Okay? So that's whatever you believe, it's what's led you to here, okay? So I remember I was speaking to a room of 100 people, and a woman raised her hand and she said, I can't lose weight. And so I asked her a question, and she had a massive shift. All I asked her, I said, have you ever, or she said, I can't lose weight. I said, have you ever released weight before? Have you ever lost weight before? She said, oh, yeah, a ton of times. And I said, oh, okay. So losing weight isn't your issue. Her issue was keeping it off, right? Why was the issue keeping it off? Because there's programs that run to keep you coming back to those things. And it's not just your programs from childhood, it's programs from like literally our whole society is programmed. Like from the movies, and anyone that's listening, I want you to shout it out in the car or wherever you're listening to this. When a woman in a movie gets broken up with in a movie, if they have a breakup, what do they then go and eat in the breakup? What do they go and eat in the breakup? They show her in her apartment, sweatpants, kind of crazy mess, wild, messy hair. She's crying. She's
Tears
eating
coming
something.
down. Yep.
She's eating something, right? Everybody's having this picture. I don't even need to say it. They already know, right? She's eating an entire carton of ice cream, right? And she's just married out. Why is that every movie? Why is that the same thing? Why do we know the type of soda that Santa Claus drinks? Why do we know that? Right? So you're being marketed and sold to consciously, subconsciously all the time, folks, all the time. And it's our job. It's our job to take ownership and responsibility of our life and know that we can change everything. And it all starts in the mind, specifically the subconscious. But the conscious is the first line of defense, which we can go down that rabbit hole. But did that
Yeah.
answer the question, I think?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think if you're listening, if you don't take anything else away, like that right there, I think is the most powerful stuff. And even seeing it from the medical side, when when a patient gets handed a diagnosis, a lot of the times this is a lifelong condition,
Totally.
or this is something we're going to have to manage. That already puts that in your head, right?
Yep.
And so, yeah, so being able to see past that is huge. So I loved all the stuff you just said there, of
Yeah.
course.
Can I add one piece to that? Because like
Mhm.
I remember, so this is nothing against doctors and the medical profession. This is just simply like most of what's happening is based off of two things. It's just research over the long term changes things, right? And then there's also money involved in this, folks. There, like weight loss is $1 billion industry,
Yep.
maybe trillion. I don't even know. It's a lot. Okay.
Yeah.
But the thing is that there's tons of money to be had in this, right? There's Ozempic, there's all these different things. But I remember hearing this story that like blew my mind. And it was the story of how back in the day, I don't even know when back in the day is, but let's just imagine the early 1900s, okay? there was a lot of women dying from childbirth. Okay. And they were just passing away after childbirth. And one guy postulated, he was like, he basically figured it out. He was like, you know what? I think it's the fact that us doctors, we are, we're working with cadavers and we're working with these dead bodies, and then we're going and we're, delivering babies after that. I think there might be a germ issue. Like, I think there might be an issue that's causing this problem. And literally, for 50 years, they were like, nope, no, that's not, no. They wouldn't accept it. And then finally, it took some time for them to accept that this is actually how it is. So that blew my mind. And I remember being like, duh, hello. And so what happens is a lot of times it's that the doctors don't know. Most doctors have like an hour worth of nutrition
Yeah.
in their whole
And they're like
degree.
8 years. Yeah.
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 So like that's not unless they go above and beyond, and that's why finding a great primary care is important. But it's like unless they go and do the research themselves, they're not going to know this stuff. And so I realized that if I didn't learn this on my own, like no one was going to teach me this. Like I had horrible gut health issues. Like I destroyed my gut health, and we could go down that rabbit hole today. But um, that's what led me to be like, I'm not only going to help myself with my own hormones and my gut health and all this stuff, but I'm going to draw a line in the sand so that I can support anyone that comes across in my life, so that they don't have to feel alone.
Yeah. Yeah. So can you share how hypnotherapy actually works to help rewire all of this stuff? All of these
Yeah,
beliefs?
hypnotherapy freaks people out. Okay. Why? Because it's un the irony is the craziest part of it, right? Because your
Mhm.
subconscious is like, I've seen stage hypnosis. You're gonna make me cluck like a chicken or bark like a dog, or
Yep.
what if he gets me to rob a bank or whatever? Like that's none of that's real, folks. Okay. But guess what's happening when you believe that? Your mind is like, uh it's going back to a subconscious program that's not safe. And it's simply because you just don't know. All right. There's just no one's ever explained it to you. No one's ever walked you through it. No one's ever um, helped you understand it. Okay. So when people come to me and they get ready to go through a session, so like Lindsay has done sessions with me. So
Mhm.
it's been it's so like what happens is that first thing I'll say is any good hypnotherapists or rapid transformation therapists, they believe like I believe, like I'm big into Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility. Okay. Because you're about to learn more about this person than pretty much anybody else. Okay.
Mhm.
So what that does is that freaks people out. But everything that person has said is completely confidential, right? Like it stays with me. And I would never mention their name with the thing that they said to me. That's crazy pants. Okay. So the first thing is that it's finding the right person that you feel totally safe, because there's a lot of people out there that are like, oh, I can't be hypnotized. And it's simply because they've solidified that belief that they can't be hypnotized. And so their subconscious latches on. It's like a wild thing. There's so much, the deeper down this rabbit hole I've gone, it blows my mind. But let's just imagine right now, listeners, that you are here for a session and I will walk you through exactly kind of what goes down. So we start off with the session, and I always tell people you are in 100% control 100% of the time. If we need to
Mhm.
come out at any time, we can come out. You're running the show. I'm just guiding. I'm just the guide during this entire process. You get to decide what happens. I it's not possible for me to hypnotize somebody who doesn't want to be hypnotized. Okay. And really all hypnosis is just changing a brainwave state. Okay, so here, this is where it gets really interesting, folks. Right before you go to sleep, okay, I want you to imagine you're lying on your pillow, you're about to fall asleep, your eyes are closed, all that stuff. You're already making that transition into a different brainwave state. It's the same deal. It's the same thing. Okay, so all I'm doing is I'm kind of just turning off that protective mechanism that would make it so that you wouldn't even be able to know the stuff that you like. It blocks the ability for, so that's why you could go to, a decade of talk therapy and never actually get to the root cause of the issue. So when I heard that, I was like, man, I got to make sure that I can speed this process up for people. People don't have a decade, or more to get to that. And that's not ever, and this is very important. It's not every therapist. There's some really amazing therapists out there that can get to the root really quickly. But when you write off hypnotherapy as just like, that's too freaky, it's too scary, you're accepting a diagnosis that doesn't empower you, right? So we're in the session, you're in 100% control 100% of the time. I say you're going to look up into your eyebrows, and if you're listening right now, don't do anything I'm about to say, okay? If you're driving or anything, okay?
Good point.
So I listen to a lot of stuff on walks or like when I'm driving, so I just don't want anybody to get hurt. So you look up into your eyebrows to a real or imagined spot overhead, and you start to breathe in and breathe out. And we do that a couple times. And what happens to me naturally is I start blinking, okay? And that's starting to shift into a different brainwave state, okay? And so what happens is after I do that about 3 or 4 times, then I close down their eyes. And what that does is it starts to create this fluttering behind your eyelid. So I can actually see it a lot of the times when somebody has that going on for them. I feel like that's probably what a lot of the stage hypnosis folks look for as well, is like, what is their state? Are they susceptible? Okay. And then I take them and I walk them down an imaginary set of stairs. Okay. So I have them look down, pretend they're walking down 10 steps, and I bring them down even deeper and deeper and deeper. And I snap and do all this fun stuff. And I'm just bringing them into an even deeper state. Then I do different kinds of deepeners with people. There's many different ways to do this, and I just play off of whatever the person is showing right then and there. But an example of one is I can have them imagine they have two magnets in the palms of their hands, and they reach them out straight in front of them. You're not gonna be able to see this camera, but just I have them imagine they have two magnets in the palms of your hands, and they're coming closer and closer and closer, and they touch or almost touch. Like I would say 98% of the people, their hands touch, and then they drop down into the lap, and I go way, way, way deeper. And so all of this is just to get them into that state. And what happens then and there, sometimes I'll bring them to a place, I'll bring them to a beach or whatever it is, right? It depends on if it's their first time and whatnot. But at this point, now we can start to go back to scenes in your life that help us identify where this all began. Like, what were these scenes and what was the feelings and meanings that we put to these scenes that created this subconscious program, belief, and habit. That's all it is. And I've done about 500 sessions, maybe more. I have kind of lost count at this point, but I've gone on a lot of journeys with people. And this is the best way I like people to understand scenes, like regressions, going back to these scenes. You are not reliving this stuff. So that's what people are afraid of, reliving it. Because they think like traditional therapy, you go in the office, you talk about your problems, you basically poke these wounds that were kind of healing, you poke them, it hurts again, and then you go home and you're like, shit. Sorry. Bleep. Now Lindsay's got to go back and do extra work there.
Okay.
But that's what happens. And it's like people are like, I don't want to do that. But what happens when we go through it this way is we get to see it and let it go. We see it and we be free of it. Okay. And so that's the beauty of this is I like to think of it like if you and I were going to a movie theater together and we go to the movie theater, we're sitting in the seats and the previews come on and I'm like, oh, I got to run to the snack shack. And I I'm like, here's a walkie-talkie, and I'm going to take one too. So you can tell me what's happening in these scenes. Okay. So I go to the snack shack and you're telling me, you're like, oh, I'm seeing this thing. So you're not reliving it. You're just seeing this scene on the screen timeline of your mind. And you're seeing the scene, you're not reliving it. And I'm just asking you questions about the scene. I'm actually not trying to solve anything right then and there. I'm just becoming inquisitive, detective, and I'm just learning what was the scene, what was the feelings that you had about the scene, and what did you make that mean? Okay, and that allows us to gather all of these different scenes. So we gather about 3 or 4 of them, and then this is where I think this is a superpower that I have as an individual with ADHD that truly believes that it's a superpower. I have the ability to draw a line from through all of the scenes and see the storyline and see the belief that it's created. Okay. And the nice part is then when we come together, I let you verbalize what it is though. Like I let the person like say this. And usually when they say it out loud, a lot of times waterworks happens because they have let it go. Okay, so I do have people bring tissues and things like that because we're gonna let it go, folks. Yes, it happens, right? And
Yeah.
we get to let it go, and I like to think of it as it's a good release. Okay, and I've seen
Mhm.
releases in every sort of way. And I remember when I did, because I practice what I preach, folks. Like I've done everything for myself that I do with other people. So I've done my own rapid transformation, hypnotherapy, past life regressions, all this stuff, and um, I remember when when I put it all together in my own session that in one of my own sessions that I said out loud, I said, I thought my brain was broken because when I was younger, I had so many learning disabilities. Like I literally had to relearn how to read as I was heading into high school. So I had a lot of stuff around that. And it helped it led me to believe that and I never verbalized it like that. It had never come out of my mouth that I thought my brain was broken. And holy moly, I was like, whoa, like just lost it because I had never realized I'd been holding on to that for 35 years, y'all. So some people go to the grave with this stuff. Some people have been holding on to something, since they were 3, 4, 5. Some are in the womb. I had a scene
Mhm.
in the womb, and I had another woman she had a scene. She was in the womb, and we were so just so everybody knows, most of the stuff is lack of enoughness. We feel like we're not good enough in some way, shape, or form. Self-love, self-worth, capability, or confidence. And so this woman went back. She was in the womb, and her mother was debating on giving her up for adoption because the father at the time was like, we can't keep it, blah, 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 blah. And so the first thing that we develop in the womb is our ability to hear. So she was hearing all of this stuff. And so her enoughness literally started in that moment. Her lack of enoughness started in that moment. And she held on to it for so long. That was why she had trouble releasing weight. Like, because she
That's
never
crazy.
and I mean we can go down this rabbit hole too, but later on when I learned I learned that your body keeps the score and your cells and your psyche, brain, and organs were all connected through German new medicine.
I hope that conversation opened your heart and mind to a whole new layer of healing. So many of us are taught to chase physical symptoms or follow a checklist, but today was a reminder that true healing often starts within. A huge thank you to Matt Travis for sharing his wisdom and passion for transformation. You can learn more about his work and connect with him using the links in the show notes. And if this episode lit a fire in you, if you're ready to go deeper into your own healing, I want to personally invite you to join my next round of the Hunger Boss Challenge starting on August 18th. It's where we explore the connection between mindful eating, emotional triggers, and sustainable change. Because when you learn to listen to your body, everything changes. Until next time, nourish your body, trust your journey, and know that healing is always possible.